Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and today I wanted to talk about. Okay, so let's assume there's a world in the multi where David Zaslav comes to me, Jared from Comics League, and says, "Jared, I've watched your podcast. I've watched your growing internet show. So I want you to run my DC universe for me. So how would I handle the movies? I'll start with the movies. How would I run DC? So my plan, and we're beginning. My time frame is from after Black Adam, Flash, and Aquaman have come out. Let's say those movies have already come out. I start immediately with Man of Steel 2. Because, well, first off, we're in the SnyderVerse, so that's done. So immediately with Man of Steel 2 and give the people the Superman that they've been calling for, because that was actually the plan. Give them the experienced Superman that goes around saving people. And then have Brainiac show up. We have Kara Zor-El. We have the whole story. In other words, go immediately to a Superman. Then go to a Batman movie. The Ben Affleck Batman movie, because everyone wants that. And it would be really cool. And plus, it aligns with Zaslav's plan of emphasizing with the Trinity. Because my next movie is Wonder Woman 3. Except here's the thing. We have to try and repeat what happened with Wonder Woman 1, not Wonder Woman 2. So tell Patty Jenkins, Patty, you can make a really good movie. We've already established that. You have to stay within the parameters that was for Wonder Woman 1. We're not making another Christopher Reeves or Linda Carter movie because ultimately that failed horribly last time. What we're going to do is we're going to establish that she's a warrior and that she's more in line with what you had in what was established in Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're using Zack Snyder's Justice League as a template for all these characters. Now, next what I would have is a Trinity movie. Yes, that's right. Another Trinity movie. And then I would have them, you'd see more of them interacting as friends. Because here's the thing. BVS was the only time the three of them interacted. Not just Batman, Superman, not just Batman and Wonder Woman. It was Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. It has to be all of them. Actually, you know what? Cancel that. I would do a Superman Wonder Woman movie because they haven't really gotten a lot of interaction in the DCEU, and that should change. We do Superman Wonder Woman. If I could, I would do Power Couple and have them be a couple. That's just me, but okay. And I would title it Superman Wonder Woman Power Couple will be roughly an adaptation of the volume 1 of Superman Wonder Woman. In terms of who the villains would be, because I'm not going to do Zod and Feora again, I would honestly have it be either the gods or Brainiac. She could even show up in Man of Steel 2, and that becomes a Superman Wonder Woman movie. But my point is, we're going to do it that way. Then what we're going to do is we're going to, after the Superman Wonder Woman movie, we do a Superman Batman movie. That's right. We're going to have a Superman called World's Finest. That's when you announce the World's Finest movie. We get Cavill and Affleck hanging out as bros, fighting crime. You keep it small scale. You don't have to have this multiversal threat. You don't have to have Darkseid invading. You do not need that. And then what next we would have is a Cyborg movie. I would honestly put the Cyborg movie probably after after the Wonder Woman 3 to a Cyborg movie, because he hasn't gotten a movie and he deserves it. And then you do Justice League 2, which establishes the Legion of Doom and then establishes the Nightmare timeline. We call it Justice League Nightmare or Justice League Shattered or something like that. Something like that that's very foreboding as a title. Then what I would do is I would have one movie taking place in the timeline of the Nightmare timeline. In other words, an entire Nightmare movie. And honestly, if I have to pick how would I do a Nightmare movie, I would honestly throw up that'd be a Suicide Squad movie as taking place during like the transition from Darkseid taking over. The Suicide Squad are like on the run, being chased by parademons and then evil Superman. That would kind of be my way of bringing those characters. Oh, and by the way, obviously there'd be the Ayer cut that would come out like probably as soon as possible. That's just me. That's an obvious thing. So I was just ignoring that because it's obvious. Then what I would do is, I would have the Suicide Squad movie that takes place during essentially Justice League 2 into 3. Then I would have Justice League 3. And Justice League 3 is the movie that's Final Crisis. Batman dies. Then you have like the Justice League mourns. We have that massive battle, which is like the entire world becomes a Justice League, that type of thing. Then what I would do is after that, I would have a I would honestly, at that point, do a Flashpoint movie and reboot the continuity. Reboot it. Oh, or actually, no, I wouldn't do that. I would establish a series. We would continue on. Obviously, Snyder's probably not going to hang on past Justice League Part 2. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. I would bring back Snyder as soon as possible. But he wouldn't hang out past, I would say, Justice League 2. So what I would do, essentially, is I would start building toward a Kingdom Come movie. That would be the final movie of this continuity, would be Kingdom Come. That's what they established Superman, Wonder Woman as a couple. Because obviously I want that to happen. All my friends that are Superman, Wonder Woman shippers, there you go. We really want that. So again, that's what I would go for. Superman, Wonder Woman, and then like essentially like Kingdom Come. Because if they do a Kingdom Come movie, you don't have to worry about the actors being old because the superheroes were old in that storyline. So that would be my DCEU. In terms of the comics, I would make the comics reflect the movies. In other words, John Kent's Superman and Jace Fox Batman don't get their own books. Sorry. No, only Clark Kent's Superman and Bruce Wayne Batman. Now, they can still show up in the main Superman and Batman books respectively. I'm not saying erase the character. I'm saying they could be backup characters, or they can even be in backup stories in the back of the book. I'm saying they don't get their own books because one of the things I would do as my strategy at the end of every DC movie, I would plug your local comic book store. In other words, if you want to read another Superman story, another Batman story, or if you want to read the stories that this was based on, it would have like visit your local comic book stores and ask for these books. And I would make sure and tell DC publication, this is the way it has to be right now. No more social agendas, no more race bending or gender bending or anything like that. They have to reflect what they are in the movies. If you want to do a Jace Fox Batman movie, which would never happen, but I'm like, okay, fine, you can do that. But besides that, it has to reflect the movie continuity because the movie is going to bring more people to the comics. Because ultimately, yeah, the comic book fans are going to go no matter what. And the comic book fans are going to keep reading comics in some form or another. And if we make the comics reflect the movies closer, guess what? It's possible. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but it's possible that we could get some of the old guard, some of the old fans that were turned off previously back in the fold because they'll see, okay, we're doing an immediate course correction. To do that, I would do a reboot. Yes, I would do a Flashpoint style reboot, but I would make sure in the marketing, the last reboot. This is the last DC reboot. We're not rebooting anymore. This is just so we can start fresh with this new thing. That way we can start with this new initiative. Then I would hire talent and say, listen, guys, this is the way it's going to be. These characters have to reflect the movies. No more proposing like weird bogus storylines that like Superman being violated in prison. No. You're not doing that. Sorry, that didn't sell and it's selling horribly. And I would really emphasize in every book, this is the last, and I would make sure I would do interviews and say, this is the last reboot DC will do. This is it. Because ultimately, I do acknowledge that some reboots do like alienate fans of that current run. I acknowledge that. That's what I say. End of the reboot. But I would indicate, I would essentially, the Omniverse thing has been explained to me a little better. So I understand what DC is saying. It's saying that no matter what era of DC you like, it exists in a world in the multiverse. I like that. That's fine. I would be emphasizing that point. And I would clarify what the Omniverse means because there's a lot of confusion in the fan base. Now that I understand it better, I'm more inclined to like it more. But I thank you, Legion of Comics, if you're watching this, for explaining that to me. But in other words, I would make sure that there's no ambiguity onto what the Omniverse means. Saying all the Omniverse means is that everything that you've been reading is canon in some way or another. It all matters. That's what that means. That's what that means. It's just a world on the multiverse. That's it. That would clear up a lot of confusion. And then I would say, here's the thing: we're done with the changing of the sexuality of characters arbitrarily, because ultimately, that's disrespectful to the already existing characters that are fantastic, that can honestly carry their own books. Because here's what you're saying: those characters aren't important enough. So that's what I would do. I would make sure that all the characters, that the diverse characters get their own time in the shine, because a lot of them were fantastic. Jessica Cruz Green Lantern, Jon Stewart Green Lantern. Let's see. Batwoman, Kate Kane, all great characters that have languished because no one's using them, and is still changing the most popular characters. I still argue that there's no such thing as an unpopular character. They just have to have a better writer. That's just me. But in other words, I would make sure that the writings. I would make sure that. In other words, I would have like side books occasionally. A book would come out occasionally that would be like Kate Kane, Batgirl. You could have all that stuff. But I would make sure that we have to reflect. We're not going to arbitrarily change these characters anymore. That doesn't work. Yes, it works like for like an issue or two because of the collector's market, but that's done. It ultimately will not work in the long run to save our sales. So that's my job. That's how I would run DC. That's more or less how I would run the movies and the comics division. Hope you that short breakdown. If you guys have any, if you guys have any suggestions on how you would fix DC, go ahead and drop it in the comments, and I will read it. I will respond to it, and we can have a little fun discussion together. I'm interested to see how you guys would run DC essentially. Now, before I let you go, I just want to remind you guys that Snyder Sundays is on, where we're going to talk about all the Snyder movies, all the Snyder DC superhero movies, or just Snyder superhero movies, because we're also going to talk about Sucker Punch at some point. Those are Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope you guys are going to enjoy that one. This week is going to be on Saturday because we're going to talk about BVS, and I have some people that wanted to come on Saturday to talk about it. So we're going to do it on Saturday at probably, I have to see what time my guests are available to come on, but it will be Saturday. We're going to talk about Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition, aka the only edition that exists. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, let me know how you guys would run DC now, because there's so much talk about it. And I'm very interested to see if you guys were in charge, if David Zaslav came to you and said, I want you to run DC in terms of the films and the comics, how would you do it? All right, stay here, work, everyone.